right. This is Live with Lisa and Benjamin. It's getting inside the right male mind. And he's laughing, but his is the right male mind as far as I'm concerned. It's the male mind that I love listening to. I created these Sunday talks so that I could get more inside this male mind because I love listening to this man talk. So hello, hello. Welcome to everybody. So today we have what I think is a fabulous topic. We are talking about the things that men are afraid to tell women because they don't think that we'll understand. And I know that there's a lot of them. As women, we are always talking about anything and everything. It's in our nature to want to open up and share and tell our partners our deepest, darkest secrets. And men are much less inclined. And partly it's because that they learn at a very early age that women say they want to hear the truth, but they don't really want to hear the truth. Yeah. So, honey, let's dive in.
Well, I think the thing that men are most afraid of is feeling shame. And so they're afraid to tell a woman anything that may create shame in their eyes and in his eyes. And shame could be fear of losing the job, fear of not getting a promotion, fear of not being able to provide, fear of aging and losing libido and losing some of our masculinity with age. That can happen. So,
well, let's start with the topic that's most on every woman's mind, and that's on all of our minds, I think, and that's sex. Right? There's a lot that men are not sharing with women about sex and sexuality, about their sexual desires, about their fears when it comes to sex. Let's talk about some of those things. We talked about them last night over dinner.
Well, I think a good man and most men are preoccupied with making a woman happy in bed, and sometimes at the expense of their own satisfaction. So they really gauge their sexual efficiency by how a woman responds, but really not how much they can light themselves on fire. And so they want to know what a woman likes, how they can do it. But very often they themselves are reluctant to say, this is what I want. This is how I like it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Because they're so busy pleasing us and trying to make us happy.
Yeah. Yeah. The marker of good sexual performance for most men is how the woman responds, not so much how much they light themselves on fire.
Wow. But also, I think because they're also afraid of not looking like a great lover. If they ask and it may show insecurity and like they don't know what they're doing, kind of like asking for directions when you're driving.
I think a man feels that he's in control, likes to feel that he's in control in the bedroom, but it's to the exclusion of being vulnerable. And he's saying, I like it a little slower here. I like it a little more this way. Can you do that? And I think a lot of men are reluctant to share that because they just feel that, they should just go in there and perform and enjoy it. And that's it.
And then there was something else that you just said about losing their libido.
Yeah. I mean, when it's something that a man is terrified of, and in cultures throughout the world, men will eat certain foods. It's almost like superstition that if they eat certain foods, they'll maintain their libido, they'll maintain their masculinity. And we see it slipping away from us. How we were, we try to use how we were in our 20s as the standard of how we should be in our 50s and 60s and even beyond. And so we're constantly afraid of that slipping away. And it's a difficult thing to tell a woman because first we feel that it makes us less in their eyes. And we also don't want to make her feel that it's not as important to us. as our body and our responses and our physiology changes. It is as much or more important as we get older to have that intimacy, that connection.
Wow. And it's also hard, to admit it because you have to admit it to yourself.
Yeah.
Like you're admitting when you say something aloud or to a partner, you're admitting that yes, I am losing my libido, or I'm not the man, I can't like do it and then, an hour later do it again.
Right, right.
Not going to happen.
I think that when men take supplements like Viagra or Cialis, that they do it in secret, all men, because they don't want to do it in front of a woman saying that I need this, to do that. And
Wow.
so, it's a rare relationship where, a man could just take a supplement an hour before or whenever in front of the woman, and it could be a joint, understanding, like saying, oh, sweetheart, I'm so glad you're doing this. This is going to be good.
Wow. And even in the best of relationships, even in the most open relationships, I'm sure that men go off and take a Cialis or a Viagra and don't say anything.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's so hard for men. It's such a sensitive thing for any man.
Well, we define ourselves primarily as sexual beings.
Mm-hmm.
And when that dissipates, our sense of self and who we are, all that we feel that we are and have been, begins to dissipate with that.
And there's the fear that it may go away permanently, that it really might happen, that one day it's not going to work.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and that's such a vital, exciting part at any age.
And all that leads back to shame, the feeling of shame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are some other things that men don't, let's talk about, like when a woman says to a man, do you think my girlfriend's hot?
I think so much depends on not only the woman he's with now, but the women he's been with in the past and their reactions. It just takes one horrible reaction for a man to say, no, I don't think she's that pretty. What do you mean she's not that pretty? She's my friend. She's really pretty. Or, you're at a restaurant and an attractive woman comes in, on the arm of her man, and we're trying not to look up. I think one of the many, many, many great things of our relationship is that if I don't look up, you would say, you didn't notice her? I said, I did.
Uh-huh. Right. Well, we joke about Penelope Cruz sending you secret messages in movies.
Yeah. We have a relationship where we can I can just objectively say that woman is stunning, as much as I can say that man has a great face.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just objective, and we enjoy beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it just takes one moment in our history where, our partner may completely devolve because they feel that we're looking at the woman more than they're looking at you, or we're comparing our partner with the woman that walked in. It all has to do with insecurity.
But there's also kind of you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Like there's a lot of that with women. Mm-hmm. Like we want to hear that we come to you and we ask a question, and then we hear the truth and we don't want to hear the truth. Mm-hmm. Right. Or we'll say, does this dress make me look fat? And a man may say, well, yeah, I've seen you look better in other things. And it's like, what? What do you mean?
Right. When that question is asked, we would usually get out of the question by quickly changing the subject, saying, wow, your hair is great today, or feigning a heart attack.
I know I've asked you sometimes questions, and you are the ultimate diplomat in the way that you say things. and I don't get reactive, but sometimes I have to manage my reaction, especially if it comes to issues of weight and physical appearance. You're very kind and honest in the way that you say things, but it's still sometimes hard to hear the truth, no matter what, from your partner. Even if you really want to hear the truth, it can be hard.
Right. And that is a real detriment to a relationship, because if a woman feels that a man is telling her what he wants to hear,
What she wants to hear.
what she wants to hear, then she can't really trust his opinion.
Mhm.
When she really needs it. Like, how is my hair, before an important event, how is my hair looking? And if the guy always says, you look fine, your
Mhm.
hair is fine, there's no credibility, there's no gravitas. So a man has to be truthful for a woman to truly trust him when it's important.
And then there's the issue of work. There's the issue of a man's work. And this is something that women will say, tell me about your work. How was your day? What happened at the office? And I know for a fact that a lot of men, all men, suffer from imposter syndrome. They're all afraid of somehow losing their careers, losing their jobs, having someone younger or smarter, or just, the son of the boss coming in and the boss firing him after years and years of dedicated commitment to that career. Men are always afraid that somebody younger, smarter, or nepotism will knock his career out from under him. And it's scary, because I think you're afraid when a woman says, how are things at the office? It's a loaded question.
Yeah. And I think as much as a man identifies being a sexual being, he identifies with what he does for work. And even if the job isn't his ultimate dream, he identifies with being a provider and working hard for his wife, for his family.
Well, and having it under control.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing he would want to do is to put a wedge of doubt in his partner's mind that things aren't going well, that sales numbers aren't as good, conference meetings haven't turned out as well as he would like. He's not getting the compliments he used to get from his superiors at work. It's tough. And the thought of losing a job beyond not providing his share, because a lot of women, a lot of his the partners are working now as well. But if he loses his job, his status in that relationship will drop. It will be the woman here and the man here, because the woman is now the breadwinner. And it feels to him like the relationship has turned on its head.
Well, and I think what happens for some couples is that the man loses his job. It starts to become a downward spiral, and then he's not able to get back up on track. And it's really, it becomes worse and worse and worse. I hear from some women, I dated this guy, we were fantastic. And then, we got married, he lost his career, and he never got it back on track.
Right. And he may try to mask the pain with alcohol, affairs, something that either hides the pain or gives him a moment of self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. And then it's worse, because if the wife is very successful, right? Yeah. And he doesn't even, like, the one person who is his ultimate confidant, which is his partner, his female partner, he can't even go to her to talk to her about the thing that he's suffering most deeply with, because he's afraid, he's ashamed, and he can't talk to her about this.
Right. And it breeds resentment with both parties. I think a man who's out of work, as so many men have been during this past year and a half, may deeply appreciate his partner providing, but there may be a resentment, no matter how kind the woman is and how much they have cared about each other. The relationship has switched, and he may sense resentment from her that, why can't he find a job? So it's the work situation can be very shameful to a man. And I think that if we were to take the balance of all the situations of men in work, that there's probably more fear and shame than there is pride.
Wow. I know that this is intimate. Did that affect you with us during the pandemic?
Well, because I'm a body worker, I couldn't work with people for 14 months. I knew that I would be getting back on my feet. And I also knew that all the years that I've been the main breadwinner. So I tried to hold that and help you, help the household, take care of things, stay busy. And yes, it did. It didn't create resentment, but I felt less than.
Did you feel you couldn't talk to me about it?
Well, fortunately, I could talk to you about it, but I didn't want to be a broken record either. Even though I might feel the same thing every day, being separate from my work was like a painter not being able to paint because the work has been so much a part of me for over 40 years now. So I couldn't talk about it every day.
But it was with you every day.
It was with me every day.
And you did talk about it some. I mean, I remember you bringing up that there were just some days where it was overwhelming. It really got to you.
Yeah.
And you brought it up. Did I handle it well? Were there things you would have liked more of from me? What could it, can you talk about what was effective, about how I held a space for you to talk about it?
Well, first, you created a space for me just to share my feelings. And second, you didn't try to offer suggestions like, oh, why don't you? Maybe you should. So I didn't feel like my rare and tender feelings were being trampled on by just, well, you can do this. It's a completely different frequency. And I think the best thing that a partner could do and a woman could do for a man is meet him at the frequency that he's generating and just meet him there without trying to change it and cheer him up or whatever it might be.
Yeah. I think also I listen. I really, really listen to what you need from me. And when you tell me something, even no matter what, I just do it. However I feel, whatever my feelings might be or whatever. But you put up a very clear boundary with me when it came to your work. Once I was making suggestions to you about some things that I that I should never have been doing in retrospect, but I think I was trying to be helpful, even like around writing a book, because I wanted to give you the space to write a book if you wanted to. Right. And you made it very clear that you would let me know if you wanted to do those things, but you knew what you needed and what you wanted, and that this was your business and you would take care of it the way you wanted to. So I knew that whatever was going on for you, that I would just create a space whenever you wanted to talk to me about it, but that it was your business. And unless you came to me with questions, I was just there to listen.
Yeah.
And I respected those boundaries. That you're the one thing that's so great about, not one of the great things, the only good thing about you, Benjamin. There's only one good thing about you.
It's good to know.
Yeah, just one, but it's really good. See, I mean, if you're going to have one good quality, just have one and really rock it, right? But one of your great qualities is that you are so clear about your boundaries. And when you state a boundary, it's a line in the sand. So, and then we don't have to talk about it again. Like the other day in the kitchen. Let's look at some questions here. We've got, hi, everybody. It's so good to see you.
Oh, terrific.
Hello.
Oh, this
Rhonda
is great.
and Jill and Wendy and Stuart. It's so good to see you all. Martha said, hi, Lisa and Benjamin. Thank you for being here today and sharing these great things. Men are afraid to share for fear of being judged and criticized or because of men's pride.
I think pride is a cover for shame. So there's genuine pride and just being proud of who we are on the planet. But a lot of pride is bravado, and it covers up shame.
Yeah.
And I think that fear is even greater than the good things that we feel.
Yeah. And Stu said, men feel they need to save and protect their families. Our egos are very connected to our careers.
Absolutely. And not just to our families, but to other men.
Yeah.
So much of our shame and our view of ourselves has to do with how we appear, not just to the women in our lives or our family, but also to other men.
Mhm. Yeah. And talking for a man, from what I know, talking about issues or problems at work, it has so many tentacles because of the shame a man feels. He feels inadequate. He feels like he's not being a provider. He feels it's his job to hold that together, even if a woman is working, even if the woman is, in fact, that adds to feelings of inadequacy if he's not at least on par with her or even a little superior. But the biggest thing is he's scared that he's going to lose her respect, which is the single most important thing to a man, because the biggest thing a man has to offer is to be a provider and a protector. Women have babies. We're mothers. We can reproduce. And men are the protectors and providers. So if they lose that, they really lose their greatest offering, or they feel they're losing their greatest offering.
Yes.
That the greatest gift that they have to bring to a woman is to create safety, financial security and safety for a woman.
Yeah, I think what a man feels that a woman needs, and we may be reading into it, is to beyond feeling cherished, beyond their wildest expectation, but feeling protected, which means physically, financially, spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, being protected. And if a man feels he's losing any of those qualities to protect his partner, it's devastating for both people.
Yep. Yeah. And one of the biggest, there's almost a duplicity here that I really feel for men, because we had an issue. We had a situation come up in our group with a young woman who is extremely independent. She's just very, very, very independent. And at the same time, she went out for coffee with a man on a date and he didn't pay for her coffee.
Right.
And, I can understand that she would love for a man to do something as simple as want to pay for her coffee. But if you take a step back from a man's perspective, it's like, here are women saying they're so independent and they want a man, but they don't need a man. And it is a kind of a mixed message going all the way back to women's lib. Do you want me to open the door for you or don't you? Should I buy your coffee or shouldn't I? Do you want to be independent and self-sufficient, or are you willing to let me be a man and do those things for you? So I think that there's also a lot of double messages that men receive.
Right. And I think women realize that they could be independent and still mirror a man's masculinity back. Like in the coffee situation, I could say, "Oh, thank you. I feel so wonderful when a man does this for me."
Well, and I get that. I mean, I understand that, but I also understand I had urged her to go and talk to him and not just write him off, and find out why he didn't pay for the coffee. And that was actually for good for her. She took it and she went and there was a little bit of an unusual thing that happened there. And she went back to him and she said, I'm curious why you didn't buy me a cup of coffee. And it opened up a whole dialogue between the two of them around that. And he basically said to her, I always consider the first meeting just kind of a meet and greet. I don't really see it as a first date. If I'm going out on a second date, I would absolutely buy someone dinner. But on that first meeting, it just did, that's just like two people getting together to see where if they want to get to know each other. But it was interesting, I think, just from the perspective of, here's this young woman who's so fiercely independent and was actually insulted by an older man who tried to give her advice, right? And then when it came to this man buying her coffee, she was adamant that he needed to buy her the cup of coffee. So I would think that men are between, as you say, well, in this case, a rock and a hard place because they don't know. And it is confusing. Teal said, my ex-boyfriend expressed tremendous pressure running his 50-person company when the pandemic hit. Being in architecture and hospitality, it was a very uncertain time. How do we best support our men during those moments? Great question, Teal.
It's a great question. And I wish I had a great answer because it's difficult. It's difficult for both parties.
Can I make a suggestion? I would say, Teal, just ask him. Just say, I really want you to feel comfortable opening up to me. I am honored that you're, that you would come to me and want to share what's going on. I know that this is a very sensitive time for you. How can I best support you in this moment?
Yeah, I think you summed it up. And what a man needs during this time is, again, having his masculinity mirrored back.
Again, explain to everyone what that looks like.
It means that reminding him who he is as a man, independent of what's going on situationally with his career, that you are strong, you are smart, you are protective, you are handsome, you will get back on your feet because you are that type of man. And mirroring that back is great because it creates a partnership and he doesn't feel like the identified patient as a man could feel.
Talk about being the identified patient, honey.
The identified patient would be when in a relationship, when one person is identified as being lesser, as needing more care, as having to be treated more delicately. And so if one person feels like an identified patient in a relationship, then there's a hierarchy in that relationship. And if the man feels like the identified patient because of situations in the world that affects his work that he can't avoid, that he wants to be able to maintain that same sense of strength in the difficult times as he feels during the good times.
Yeah, and it's really important. One of the things I noticed with Benjamin is that when he's going through something, if I'm over cuddling or over like hovering or worried or asking him, how are you, whatever, and I'm doing that too much, he will say, I don't want to be the identified patient, and I just let it go. So it's in our nature as women to be caring and nurturing and to want to take care of someone that we deeply love and check in and all. And a little bit of that is okay, but it's very important. And a man that you're with may not be as articulate as Benjamin is able to articulate what's going on, but look in his eyes, watch his expressions, and stay attuned to your partner or to a man, because you can see it in his face if he's, if you're crossing that line and you are making him into the identified patient. It's delicate. It really is delicate, but he doesn't want to feel like he's, the patient and you're taking care, you're there to administer to him.
Right.
Yeah, like you're the nurse. There was one last thing regarding sexuality. One of the things that I know with men can be very, very, very difficult is to be honest with women about what it means to be a man sexually, what a man's sex drive is, and especially when we're in relationships, monogamous relationships, we're very focused on each other, and a good man is committed to his partner and to the integrity of the relationship. But for most men, it's woven into the fabric of who they are to love the conquest, love the chase, love the newness of a new experience with a new woman that he's never been with. And those are things that I know most men would never tell women.
Right. Yeah. And, in a man's history, even in his 20s and 30s and, the time that he sexually peaks, there'll be times that he's not able to perform, whether he's nervous, whether he had too much to drink, whether he has other things on his mind. And I think it's so important for a woman to, whether a man is in his 20s or a man in his 70s, to say, I love even when we just cuddle. I just love when you hold me. We don't have to do anything more than that right now, rather than showing any signs of disappointment, but showing signs of appreciation and enjoyment, even in things that don't culminate in intercourse. Yeah.
Yeah. And one other last thing is porn. I would venture to guess, if I'm being honest, that almost every man on the planet looks at porn.
And almost every man on the planet hides it from his partner.
But it's true,
Yeah.
right? That's something that almost, it doesn't mean that somebody's a porn addict or that he's a sex addict or anything, but probably every man looks at it.
And I think where the line is drawn is if looking at pornography enhances the relationship, or ultimately if it detracts from the relationship.
Mhm.
So, I mean, some men look at porn, or they may go to a strip club just to increase their libido for when they get home, for the time that they're with their partner. And it can cross the line where people will prefer the anonymous porn to an actual intimate relationship.
But sometimes it's also you just want to look at porn.
Exactly.
Sometimes you just, it's a different experience from being with your partner.
Yeah.
And it's just human nature to like variety, right?
Right.
And it's not having sex with another woman, but it's probably the most innocuous thing. Not that I'm supporting the porn industry. We can go into a million facets of that. Please, I want to make that clear. I'm not advocating for pornography, but I'm just saying that, and if asked, almost any man, if you looked at your guy and said, do you look at porn? What would be his answer?
I think every man would have a different answer, but I think there's a certain shame and fear of being found out. And so, again, we're not advocating porn, or if that's the case, that if a woman could just say, that's cool, and it just takes the stigma away, and even offer to, be by his side. So again, we're not
advocating for that,
but with the reality of the world, it's worth discussion.
Yeah. And I think I would end just as end the conversation. As a woman, if anybody does have any questions or any comments that you'd like to post, we're going to end soon, but please put them in the comments. As a woman, I decided that there came a time where I said to myself, Lisa, men are different. There are things that are different about men than women. And it's time to become an adult. There may be things that you don't like or that you don't want to hear, but the truth is that I have certain things about me as a woman that I want my partner to accept, even if they're not things. He may roll his eyes and say, how many, pieces of clothing do you have to own? How many purses do you have to have?
Shoes.
Well, I don't have a lot of shoes. Unfortunately, my feet are not so good anymore. So I wear flip-flops. But yes, there are things, I talk with my girlfriends on the phone for hours, or I don't do that so much anymore because we don't do that. But there were things about me as a woman that I wanted my partner to understand. And I knew that this has to be reciprocal. I had to then be willing to accept certain things about my partner that I may sit back and go, okay, wow, maybe I didn't need to know that, but I want you to feel you can bring all of you to this relationship in the same way that I want to feel free to bring all of me to the relationship. And so I just decided to grow up, and I tend to be a realist, not an idealist. And that's really helped me take huge strides in being able to have the kind of love and relationship and open dialogue with my partner that I think so many women are longing for. But that didn't come from me saying, okay, I'm going to find the one unicorn out there who doesn't look at porn. I decided that my guy was probably, if he was a healthy adult man, was probably going to look at porn from time to time. And I was going to be okay with that because that's what men do. And so it doesn't mean that I accept unacceptable behaviors like cheating or duplicity, lying, manipulation. No, absolutely not. But certain, male behaviors that are probably across the board things that men do, I decided that I would make room for them and that I would accept those things. And it has really helped me have a stable, healthy, loving, passionate relationship with my partner where I feel that there's nothing he couldn't tell me that I wouldn't be open to receiving and hearing, even especially the things that men can't tell most women.
Right. I think a lot of it has to do with making the container large enough to include the ability to ask questions, to show fear, to show vulnerability. And because the container is often narrow from, either partner, both partners can define it, or that society can define it, that if we can make the container big enough to contain the quirks that people have, the fears that people have, I think we could deal with it lovingly rather than with shame and with fear.
On that beautiful note, we're going to end and just wish everybody a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you so much to everybody who joined us. Please give us a thumbs up or a heart if you're inspired to do that. Tune in next week. We'll be back again with another exciting subject. We would love it if any of you have topics that you'd like for us to explore. Please send us an email. You can send that to lisa@lisashield.com. And you can also go and listen to my webinar. I have a free 45-minute webinar. You can find the link at lisashield.com. That's where you'll find the link to the webinar. And we look forward to seeing you next Sunday. Love to everybody. Stay safe out there. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.